I am live. Hello, ABL or any other Dukes League guys that might be watching. Week 2 ABL, same little tidbits and stuff that I did last week. Start off immediately congratulating uh, Mark and the Tigers, but the Jays and the Tigers, only two undefeated teams left in the league. Probably not who I would have put my money on. I mean, I liked the Tigers, and Mark's pitching is phenomenal. I guess I would have put money on there being more undefeated teams now than there are. Multiple matchups a week and everything, so kind of hard to make that kind of a run. But I kind of thought we would see still a few other teams sitting on top of the actual standings, which we have right here. The divisions are shaping out now that it's still only 2 weeks. We got to realize some teams have played 5, some teams have played 6. So when I say like maybe stuff is taking shape, not the kind of shape it's going to take later, but we can get a glimpse now, a bigger sample size, and the divisions are about as tough. Marlins sitting on top of the NL East. Don't know that I saw that. Not to pick on Tony, because I feel like I said that a lot in week 1 about how well the Marlins had performed, but that's going to be a tight division. Everybody's kind of right there in points for. You get down to the Nats, but not a whole lot separating the number 1 scoring team in the NL East from the number 2. And then not a ton separating the 2 from the 3. The Cubs somehow in first place in the Central of what we knew was going to be a tough division, but it's the scoring. The reason I say somehow, look at how many more points the Cardinals have put up than the Cubs, and the Cardinals managed to lose 2 games this last week. Disappointing for Jeff, because while he did not perform as well as week 1, the team is still doing well in the overall numbers, which I'll run down a little bit later. So yeah, obviously the Tigers did great. The Jays did great. The White Sox somehow lost a game, despite just really annihilating. His 2 wins were 2 of the biggest margin wins. His loss wasn't the smallest margin loss, but still, Harry's White Sox are a force. Let's take a look. Oh, that's combined. So we have 2 undefeated teams. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that have no wins yet. So a little bit of disparity there, but of course that's not going to remain that way. We do have still the poor Brewers. Rob's Brewers pulling up the rear in total points scored. I think he's the only guy left under 1,000. He'll fix that this week, but probably not entirely his fault either. As I've talked about on the Discord, I've got a lot of, if you weren't starting Mets early on and getting killed by that, maybe you have A's and Twins now, so you're going to get killed by that, or you have some of the Astros that went down. I have a lot of Bregman, a lot of Altuve. So it's just kind of been funky, but kind of like anybody that chose to play out leagues, after finding out what was going on last year, we kind of knew that this stuff probably was going to happen. MLB doesn't seem to be as good about this stuff as the NFL was, and they don't do the bubble like basketball. This shit's going to happen. It's kind of happening more early than I thought it would. More of it happening early than I thought. Thought maybe they'd have it clamped down coming in, and we'd see this shit spring up as the year went on, and guys were traveling more and everything. But this stuff's happening early. Let me get that up bigger so you guys, anybody watching, can see. Let's go to the actual results and break down some week 2 action. let's take a look at the biggest whoopings. So anybody that read the Discord or paid attention to the scoreboard and saw the obvious, the Dodgers and the White Sox put up big numbers. The Mariners put up a big number as well, a nice 311, but didn't have a huge margin victory. So just you're gonna notice a theme here in the biggest margins of victory. Number one, which is not number one on the season. Number one on the season remains St. Louis Cardinals over Boston Red Sox, 269 and change, 166, 269.166. The biggest victory of week one. Biggest victory of week two, Dodgers over Brewers, 224.833. I hate doing I think I might just start saying and change or something because I hate doing that. So 225, round up, call it 225. Dodgers over Brewers. Number two, Dodgers over the Giants, 203.204. 204, round up. Number three, the White Sox over the Texas team, who I think did not have. So the Brewers, man, the Brewers had two. I'm not picking. This is just factual. I'm not picking on the Brewers, but the Brewers had two of the three biggest loss margins of the of week one against Seattle and the Phils at 255 and 244, and then he's got the number one of this week at 224, 225. So I think Rob's been fairly beat up by injuries. And I know he's got like some prospects that he had sunk some money into that he's kind of waiting on. So this is not an unexpected slow start for the Brewers. But just to point out and maybe stick the needle a little bit, he hasn't just been losing. He's been getting whooped. Yeah, he's having trouble fielding. He just had Aquino go down. Hazley is not hurt, but he's like stepping away from a little bit or whatever. He's Altuve hurt. Guzman's going to be hurt for a long time. The pitching was never super strong to begin with, but still, when you're missing that many bats in the lineup, I know that as well. It hurts. That stuff all adds up. I'll talk a little bit about points per game and stuff after this, and that'll be a good example of that, him and the Mets especially. So your number three biggest margin of victory was Harry's White Sox over Sam's Rangers, the Texas Rangers. 194 points is your number three. So last week's number three was 244 points, but that was the longer week and a half matchup. This is probably maybe a little more accurate to what we might see the rest of the year. So under 200 points after the first two. Number four, Harry's White Sox again over my Rockies. He beat me by 174 points. You do not want to face the White Sox. You never want to face the White Sox or the Dodgers for that matter. But man, these guys are just demolishing opponents early on by big margins. And then number five, Joe's Dodgers over the Razor, the Astros, 170 points, rounding down. So the Dodgers not only went 3-0, they beat the shit out of everybody he played. Joe stepped up to the plate and just beat the hell out of everyone. So you don't want to face the Dodgers. You don't want to face the White Sox. You don't want to face the Dodgers. I faced the White Sox last week. I'm facing the Dodgers this week. Probably going to face Dodgers a lot. He's in my division. I picked the Dodgers to win the division, and right now, I'll take the April victory lap. I'll take the early lap. He looks like a beast, and I don't recall the loss that he took. I think it was slim. It was. He lost to Mark's Jays by 26.5 points. The fifth smallest margin of victory of week one was Joe losing, so he should easily be in that undefeated list if it weren't for 26.5 points. That's how she goes. Conversely, the smallest margins of victory this week are worse or better, however you want to choose to look at it, than week one. So just to recap a little bit, week one's smallest margin of victory, so your smallest margin on the season to date before yesterday was the Razor, Houston over Seattle, 3.5 points. And then Ray also had number 3 over Pittsburgh, 16 points. This week, the new record for somebody just homered in the Sox v. Sox game. Who the hell is that? Is that Xander? Oh, Verdugo. All right. Boy, what a strange game. Would not have thought 9-2 Sox. Well, Red Sox in the third. So setting the new record for smallest margin of victory, the Mets beat the Marlins by 1.334 points. I don't want to round that down because the decimal actually matters in this instance. So 1.334 points. And then number 2, Dom's Rays beat my Rockies, by 1.666 points. Okay? That frustrates me to even say it. Like I know I probably screwed up on starting a reliever that had bench. I know I had Austin Adams in there one day and he got negative points. So if I just don't start Austin Adams, if I start nobody instead of Austin Adams, I at least get out of this week with 1 win. As it stands, I got whooped in one matchup. I lost my matchup against the Rays, and then I got pretty beat up against the Pods. Just your average ass kicking against the Pods. But man, not a good week for me. So number 1, 1.33 points. Number 2, 1.66, 1.67 points. And then number 3, the Angels beat the Twins by 1.667. So what is that, a hundredth of a point between Rays Rockies and Angels Twins? I don't even know how that happens. But so 3 games, 3 matchups decided by less than 1.7 points, 1.8 points. Devastating to those of us that lost, to the victors. When you look at the standings, it's just a W. I don't keep track. I mean, maybe it matters to tiebreak and stuff eventually, but it's just a W. To us, it's a horrible, disappointing, managed my way to lose. I snatched defeat from the jaws of potential victory with this one. Number 4, the Cards, after annihilating competition last week, barely squeaked it out against the Reds, 5.501 points. And then the same Reds, for your number 5 smallest margin, those same Reds, Lenny's Reds, beat Rays Astros, the only double-digit slim margin, 15.166 points, 15 points. So your top 5 this week, way more bunched together and slimmer margins, quite a bit slimmer margins. Two last week that were less than double digits. 4 this week, that were under double digits. 3 of those being by fewer than 2 points. So I don't know. I don't think we've had enough to look at yet to say that that's going to be a typical occurrence. This might be a unique week. It might not be. I don't know. Super interesting to look at because there were some others that didn't make the cut that were also very close. Miami, St. Louis, 17 points. The O's and the A's were 20-something points. I can't read my own writing. So yeah, a lot of really close games where depth matters and playing the right guys matters. Austin Adams is going to haunt me. I spent $6 a fab on him, and he sucks. So, that's the way she goes. What else we want to look at here? How about some... And I want to look at the actual standings one more time. I just want to take a look at, and it's hard to say that the AL Central, just with the 2 top teams they have, are not going to be very tough. But then the way they're stacked here kind of betrays how good it is. You have Kansas City in third and Tyler's Twins in fourth, but Tyler's actually scored nearly 400 points more than the Royals. But the Twins have given up almost exactly as many points as they've scored, and he's a 500 record, so it kind of makes sense. But I mean, he could easily, with some better scheduling, he could easily be, I don't know, 4-2, maybe 5-1. I mean, he lost to the Angels by less than 2 points. Did he have any of the bad margins last week? He did. He lost to the D-backs by 21 points, so he had the fourth smallest margin of defeat last week. So yeah, Tyler could easily be he's quite a bit. He could be 5-1. He could easily be 5-1. He's had 2 losses by fewer than 25 total points. So that's pretty tough. We could call him Tough Luck Tyler if everybody's cool with that. It's alliterative. He's also, I think, a teacher though, so we could just call him Teacher Tyler. That kind of sounds dumb. So we'll go Tough Luck Tyler because he's had it. Let's take a look. Now, the Yankees haven't shown up on any of the big whooping lists or the small margin of victory lists, but he does have a nice gulf between his points scored and points allowed, which makes me think he's had some pretty close matchups because he could easily be 5-1 at the very least. And he's sitting in second place, but geez, look at the Rays. The Rays have scored 1501.166. Sorry, they've allowed 1501.667. So I thought the Twins were close with about a 16-point difference. Dom's Rays have literally just scored as many as they've given up. And he beat me by less than 2 points. So you could easily flip those, and Dom could be 2-3, but he's 3-2. The O's, I know they've been somewhere. I just talked about the O's. Oh, they had the close win against the A's. 28.5 points is what that looks like. 26.5, 23.5. I can't tell. So the O's, a close win. They could easily be 2-4, and that would make the A's 1-5. I know he's had some tough luck losses. The Boston Red Sox, they face some stiff competition, giving up 2,100 points so far. He has actually scored more points than the Rays, but has 0 wins to show for it. That's scheduling, man. Scheduling in head-to-head leagues, going to say it every week. Scheduling is important, and there's nothing you can do about it. It just is what it is. But when you see stuff like that, I know I mentioned last night I want to jump all the way down to my team, but I was kind of looking. The Rockies are the only team that have scored more points than they've allowed, but have a losing record. Not that I've scored a lot more points than I've allowed, and it's actually a pretty low amount of points to begin with. But I have scored more than I've allowed, and I have a sub 500 record. I ran into a wrecking ball last week. I'm running into one this week. That's how it goes. Go back up to the AL, finish off the AL West. The Mariners and the Astros both have put up big matchup numbers these first couple weeks. Seth scoring 2,311 points. The Astros at 2022, but the Astros have ran into some buzzsaw matchups because they've actually given up. Is Ray the only team to have scored 2,000 plus and given up 2,000 plus? Let's take a quick look at that. He is. So the Astros called him the Razor last week because he had some slim margins of victory. He had a slim loss this week, and looking at the overalls, he's probably pretty happy to be 4-2. He's had a good year, not see how many teams have scored 2,000 points. So can I go to combined? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams And Tony barely hits that mark with 2007. So 9 teams have scored 2,000. Only one has been up against teams that have scored 2,000 against them, and that's the Razor. And he's still 4-2, but that could easily be flip flopped without those week one thin wins. Very interesting. Kind of didn't look at that last night. He's the only guy that scored 2,000, allowed 2,000. So of course Seattle Seth sitting on top of that division, but Ray's right there, and then you have the poor A's who are 0-6, but have scored a significant amount more points than 2 of the teams ahead of him. He scored 240, 239 more points than the Angels, who are 3-2, and he scored 570 more points than the Rangers, who are 2-3. So that is some hard luck scheduling for the Oakland A's. That's what do you want? BABIP? He's getting BABIP'd to death. Like, you got to feel for the A's kind of to be looking at himself in that division and geez, especially scoring as many more points as he has than the Rangers and still having nothing to show for it. Well, looking at the Rangers with their 1,100 points scored and 2 wins, kind of feel bad. But hey, man, that's fantasy. That's head-to-head. That shit doesn't happen in Roto, but that's head-to-head. That's why head-to-head's fun, and that's, again, why I really like these multiple matchups a week kind of thing. Gives you way more to look at, a little bit more to go off of. It's just, it seems more fun. I had never done one. I kind of really like it. So yeah, poor A's. Angels and Rangers, they're just kind of, I don't know. They don't stick out. They weren't on, except for the Angels, were on one of those they beat the Twins by 1.667. The Angels haven't really done a lot to stick out, at least to me, when I'm just looking at this stupid shit that I talk about on here. They're not really sticking out to me. They're just kind of like my team, just kind of treading water, hoping to get healthy. Let's check out the Angels roster real quick, just to see what he's dealing with. Oh, he got Yerman. Not a whole lot of unhealth, just kind of guys. He's got Lindor, so you had the weird Mets shit to start the year with. And then he's had some definite guys, underperforming type guys. Hendricks, Houck getting optioned to the alternate site. Javier sent down. So yeah, and then Pearson. So he has some health. Fairbanks. But yeah, he's kind of just there. And then, man, the NL Central. Knew it was going to be tough. Did not expect Frank's Cubs to be sitting on top of the mountain. Look how many more points the Cardinals have scored than the Cubs. How are the Cardinals 4-2 and the Cubs 4-1? Scheduling, baby. Cardinals have allowed 1,892 points. The Cubs have only allowed 1,336. Pretty big, almost as big as the gulf between the points the two of them have scored is the gulf of the points that those two have allowed. And then you dip down into the third place where Pittsburgh is sitting, and we know how rough their week one was. But now look at another team that's like right here with points scored, points allowed. He's scored 1946. He's allowed 1985. Good year, good vintage. But that's rough. To put up almost 2,000 points and to still only be 2-3. I mean, it's not quite as bad as Oakland. But man, that's rough. And then Milwaukee, as we said, the only team to not yet score 1,000 points, but he's also kind of been on the bad end of the schedule and giving up nearly 2,000 as well. I don't know, a lot of us probably have given up about 2,000. Not Frank. Shit, not Frank, not Lenny. Lenny's only given up 1,428. scored 13-15. So kind of a gap there. He's 2-3. But you look at the 2-2-3 teams in the Central. The Pirates have outscored the Reds by a little over 600 points. So should they both be 2-3? Should they be? Maybe not, but they are. That's head to head. NL East, Marlins sitting on top. As I said earlier, he's squeaked into the 2,000 point club, and he hasn't completely been a bum in the allowed either. He's allowed 1835, so he hasn't just played, lower end competition, however you want to say it. And then, man, the rest of the division super jumbled outside the 0-5 Nats. And let's look at the Nats real quick. What is wrong with the Nats? They've only scored about 1,200 points, given up 1,600. So it's not so much a scheduling thing. Like I think they're a three-headed monster. He's got some red flags with crosses on it. He's got some health issues. They have some health issues. McHugh, a lot of injured arms. Yeah, just the pitching. Luzardo has not been very good. The well-traveled AJ Minter has not been terrible. He's got 3 holds. But Brad Hand has not been very good. Now, it hasn't been what you wanted him to be, but none of the Nats really have, except maybe Trey Turner. He's lost Pender. He's lost Max Stassi, pretty much all the catchers. He's got Campusano, but yeah, Paredes being in the minors, Tony La Russa messing around with Andrew Vaughn all the time, Austin Hayes. So, this is a team that will be better when they get healthy. But any of these guys, I don't remember how many there are, 5 or 6 teams that are yet to be, that are winless, yet to win a game. My heart probably goes out to the A's more than anybody, because I'm not poking. You guys know I'm not fucking ripping on anybody. That's just tough, man. I would be probably making a stink about it if it was me. Just that sucks, man. There's no other way to say it than like a BABIP or unearned runs or something. Like it's really not your fault. Like you've really just been scheduled to death these first 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks, but it's tough to log on and see 0-6. That sucks, especially when you probably shouldn't be. Oh yeah, that's the East. Check out the NL West, where I just take a big gulp because I am not nearly as good as I maybe had hoped I would be in this division. I knew the Dodgers were going to be good, and man, we have 2 2,000-point teams in this division. The AL West has that as well. So just the West. Oh, no. Fuck the Central. So it's not actually that unique. It's not that cool. But another of 3 divisions that have 2 2,000-point teams. But then the gap between 2 and 3, is pretty significant. And it shows in the records. You got 2 5-1 teams, and then 2 2-3 teams, and then an 0-6 Giants, who, despite putting up 1,100 points, have given up nearly 2,000. 1984. So let's look at him and Duke. Duke's given up 1985. Giants have scored 1,100 and are 0-6. Duke scored 1,900 and is 2-3. So, just really what I was just saying about the A's, you could pick and choose these little bullshits and probably apply them to, I'd be pissed if I was this guy, or, because look at this guy. It's a 30-team league. You're going to be able to do that with anybody. But I don't know, just kind of fun to look at that. Realistically, the Pirates, who have scored almost 900 more points than the Giants, only have 2 more wins than they do. So we haven't had time to separate that much yet. But if, the trends continue, there's no way that at the end of the year, the Pirates and a team that he outscores by 900 points are going to be that close together in record. So kind of dumb to point that stuff out, I guess. But the hell else am I going to talk about? Let's take a look at – so this is what I kind of really wanted to talk about. is how much in this league, and it's beating a dead horse, but like depth and having the guys to go every day really matters. The Mets this week, the Mets were kind of far and away the point per game leaders at 5.07 points per game. The Mets put up, and the Mets are actually, what am I looking at here? Oh, scoring period 3. The Mets are actually number 1 on the season in points per game at 4.33. Number 2 is the Dodgers, 4.19. So it's actually, I mean, that's somewhat significant gap between 1 and 2. It's actually 1 and 2 and 2A because the Cardinals are right there at 4.19 as well. This is on the season. And then Detroit, 4.15, and then Toronto, 4.1. So top of that mountain is the Mets. But the Mets are way down the list on actual games played. So it like they're great. Like the Mets do well on a point per game, like kind of base, 4.33, but he's only played 136 games compared to Dodger Joe's league leading 212. So on the one hand, it's you can look at the Mets, especially the Mets this week, and say, wow, he averaged 5.07 points per game, which, going back to, I didn't write down the actual numbers for week 1, but I don't think the Cardinals were over 5. I could be wrong. Suffice to say, it's great to average points per game, like a high points per game, but you also need to have the guys to play the games. Because when you look at the Mets, they're way down here at, the hell did I say, 130? Yeah, 136. They're second to last in games played. So imagine if the Mets could average 4.33 points a game and have played 200 games, they'd be 5-1. They'd be 4-2. They'd be 6-0, depending on who they played. Depth is so crucial. These deep teams, the White Sox, the Tigers, the Dodgers, these deep teams, the Cardinals, these are the guys. The Yankees are only 4-2, but a very deep team. They're up there near 200 games played. It's so crucial to get guys in there that can just do anything. So to round out the week's points per game, the Mets 5.07, the Sox and the Dodgers both average 4.7, the Tigers at 4.26, and the Pods 4.15. I got cotton mouth and I don't have anything to drink. The week's hitting. This is overall. I don't know why I'm looking at overall because I don't know how to. Oh, by period. There we go. I don't want to look current. Man, what the fuck? I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes fan tracks. Oh, there it is. Like I want to like fan tracks because it seems to be a way a lot of people. I just don't like them. I just find it a little clunky. I hate that they don't have an app, and I don't even like doing this stuff from my phone very much. But I hate that they don't have an app. So just to put it in perspective, number 1 for games played this week was the Tigers at 86 total. And then you get the Mets, who averaged the most points but played the fewest games. So maybe that goes to put the hole in my argument right there, that maybe the Mets wouldn't be still averaging that many points a game. Obviously they wouldn't be. You add more games, you take down the average. But like the Mets guys that do play are pretty good. They just don't have very many guys that are playing. You only have 50 games this week, and you have the Giants 54, the Indians 55, and the rest of us dregs in the low 60s. Nats, Brewers, me, the Rockies, the D-backs, the Reds, the Twins. You get all the way up to the top. Several teams playing 80 or more games. Yankees, Marlins, Pirates, Mariners, Dodgers. These are the good teams. These are the guys in first place in their divisions or have scored a bunch of points. Duke is third in his division, but he's scored nearly 2,000 points. There's a definite trend forming here, and it doesn't take rocket science to see what it is, and you could have seen it before even week 1. We talked about it in the previews, but it's coming to fruition. The hitting points on the week, you have the Tigers, Cubs, and Dodgers, the 3 over 200 points. The White Sox and Yankees bringing up the rear, and then an 8-point separation between the Yankees and the Pirates for 6th place. And then the Mets with 161 hitting points out of so few games played. But then his pitching was pretty bad. But, I mean, that hitting from the Mets, geez, if he could do that every week and then just get, run down. I don't know. He gave up. He just gave up. Who's number 12 on the Red Sox? Is that JD? Scored a run, but then he got caught up between. I was hoping for a good pickle. The pitching points, the White Sox, the only team to go over 200 this week. And then the Padres making an appearance on a top 5 with 187.5. The Dodgers and the Blue Jays and the Mariners rounding that out. Seth almost sneaks into 170, and then a little bit of a gap to the Braves at 157 points. So not quite. I mean, this is the first week where we only had the one, the true week matchup. So I don't really like comparing that stuff to, the hitting and the pitching and stuff to week 1, the 11-day week. But I mean, you guys all know what I'm talking about here. Boy, I go 0-3 this week. I could very easily go 0-3 this next week. My personal Rockies are off to a rocky start. I got a lot of guys hurt. We didn't quite have like the amount of injuries we had in week 1 or the types like the Tatises and guys like that. But we're seeing some injuries kind of start to take their toll a little bit with teams only playing 50, 55 games, getting 55 games in their lineup and such. It's starting to get rough. And, for some of us, it's only going to get worse before it gets better. Interesting, we don't have any teams in the league. We don't have any one-win teams. It's either 2 or 0. There's no one-win teams. And we've seen with these margins of victory, there perhaps at least should be. At the fucking A's, man. Story of the week for me is the A's. Poor A's over 2 weeks. I guess story of the first 2 matchups is the A's being 0-6 when they definitely shouldn't be. And then the surprise teams for me are the Cubs and the Marlins. The 2 guys that have made the most trades that seem to, depending on how you look at guys that make a lot of trades, have just maybe never been happy with their team. Why else are you trading all these pieces? And then here they are at, 4-1 and 4-2, and one sitting on top of his division and the other in second place. Yeah, it's early, but good on Frank and Tony. They knew what they were doing. They knew the teams they wanted to put together, and at least for the first couple weeks, you guys can stand back and look down at a lot of the rest of us. Are the bases loaded? No, they can't be loaded. I just had a rundown. Whatever. I know Tyler just popped up the power rankings. I would like to try maybe in the middle of the week to do an updated power ranking show. I can't promise anything. I'm probably heading back to Illinois before too long to deal with a family thing. Nothing terrible, but I'll take the laptop. Maybe we'll get me and the Padres live on one of these or something. I'm gonna keep it going though. But that's your season. That's your week two ABL recap. If I missed anything, or if I've missed anything with these first 2 that anybody might like to see me yak about, these breakdowns, I wanted to bring guys on to talk about them, but I feel like I've already went 40 minutes by myself. If I have another guy here, I almost always go super long, and I don't really want to. But I got to try to find a way to streamline these. So any tips and suggestions on how to, or better things to talk about, perhaps less boring stuff, more interesting stuff. My ears are always open. As it is now, I'm going to finish watching this game. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hopefully, I'm not reporting myself going 0-3 this time next week, but I don't know. Good luck to everybody. Week 3. Signing off.